Good morning, Saturday morning. I wanted to do a little video this morning, if you're interested in watching sometime this weekend, of the process I'm in right now of making new planks. I think it's really cool, obviously, having fun. So I want to sort of show you guys what I do, and in case you're interested. All right, love you. So there's going to be a little series of videos here just to show you. Hope you enjoy it. Love you guys. So it starts with removing the old plank, and you guys are all familiar with that process. Here's the plank I'm going to be working on this morning. It is one of the chine planks. It's on the starboard side. It's the aft plank. I did the forward one yesterday, which is right up there. So we, with your help, removed plugs and screws, and we basically took the plank off. You can see it needs to be replaced. And then I purchased a piece of African mahogany, which I have laying right here. Here's the other plank from the other side of the boat, the port side, same plank, okay? This African mahogany I have already put through the planer, and that took it down to a nice smooth finish here, and you can see the ribbon in the wood. So this is ribbon sapele African mahogany. They do different types of cuts that produces a different look or a different effect of the grain, and this cut here is called the ribbon cut. So you'll see that the grain runs in kind of a ribbon kind of pattern along the side of the boat, which should be real pretty. So now that I have this board and it's already been planed a little bit, I am going to see how much of the board I need in order to make these planks. So I've got the old plank laying on there. You can see I can narrow the board a little bit, and I can also cut off some length. So I'll do that. Then the next thing is that the board itself is what's called 5/4. Now in the world of woodworking, they don't talk about wood as being 1 inch or 1 1/4 or whatever. They talk about it in quarters. So a 5/4 board is 5/4 thick, or 1 1/4. And when you buy the wood, what you find on the end of it is 9. This 9 means it's 9 feet long. This 9 with the circle means it's 9 board feet. They sell this wood by volume, and that's the measurement is board feet, which they have a calculation for. So it's so much per board foot. Now you may notice that the old plank is only maybe 1/2 inch thick. So why in the heck would I start out with a board that's 1 1/4 inch thick? Well, because I am going to resaw this board into 2 boards, and each of those would end up being about 5/8 of an inch thick. So then I can get both sides planks, port and starboard, out of this one board. And that resaw process is very interesting, and that's what I'm going to be doing first this morning, and I will show you that. Okay, so now I'm ready to resaw this board, and this is how you do it. It's a table saw, and there's the blade. Trust me, I'm very careful. The board has to be up on its end like this, and it has to go through and get sawed from one side and then flipped over and sawed from the other, progressively making the cuts deeper. And then eventually you have 2 boards. I'll show you when I'm finished. Okay, so I have safely finished resawing from both sides, but you'll see the challenge I have is that the blade only goes up about 3 1/4 inches, and this plank is about 7 inches wide. So I got 3 1/4 from both directions, and I've got a little bit left right in the middle. So now I've got to take a hand saw and separate those 2 boards. Oh boy. All right, so we now have 2 boards, and you can see that there's some roughness here from the cut, but came out pretty good, and they're both a nice thickness for what I need. Now what I need to do is to take them and put them through the planer and get them down to what Jim would call a fat 3/8, which means just slightly larger than 3/8, but not quite 7/16. So that's next. All right, so there you have it. There is the old plank laying there. And there's the finished wood to make a new plank. Isn't that beautiful? Wait till I have a dozen coats of nice varnish on it. It's gonna be really beautiful. So now what I have to do is I have to figure out how to cut and shape that new piece to fit that hole. That's coming up next, if you're still watching. All right, so in order to, make a template, if you will, of what the plank needs to be in order to fit there properly, first thing we do is we take the old plank, clean up the edges a little bit, which I've done, and then place it back in there. And you can see the old plank has, some gapping going on here, okay? Then it gets tight in here, and then it gaps a little bit there, okay? And then you got a big gap all along up here. So I can't just reproduce this old plank, the shape of it, because it won't fit right. So what I have to do then is, while that old plank is in there, I'm gonna go along very carefully with blue masking tape like this, and I'm going to lay the tape down on the board with one edge of the tape following where the board should actually end. Once I do that all the way around the board, I can use that as my template to trace onto my new board and make my initial cut. All right, so now you can see I have placed that blue tape all along there, and it shows where the board should actually end on top and bottom. Okay, top edge of the blue tape is where the board should be on that edge. Bottom edge of the blue tape is where the board should be on that edge. So now I'll take that and go lay it down on that board on top of the boat right there, and map it out, and then start cutting. All right, so what I've done now is, I made tick marks along the edge of that blue tape on this board, and then I took this thin piece of wood, like a batten, and I went along those tick marks that I made and basically tapped it down with nails at every tick mark, okay? So what that does is it gives us what Jim calls a fair line, because the batten basically creates a smooth line from tick mark to tick mark, so it's very nice. So now what I have to do is I'll trace that along the side of that batten, and then remove the nails and remove the batten, and then do the next line down on the bottom, at all of these little tick marks along here. That's where I am right now. Okay, so I have basically taken tape and put it along the edge of the pencil lines that I made, because the tape's obviously a whole lot easier to see. So now I have it here back on the table saw, and I am going to basically cut right along the outer edge here, and that should get it pretty close. And after that, I'll be using a hand plane to finish it up. All right, so now I have roughed out this plank and placed it on here with clamps, and what I'm looking for is where there are problems. For example, I can see here that some of this has to come off up here, or over here on this board. A little bit's got to come off in order for this gap here to be closed. And as you go along the bottom here, you can see we're nice and snug here, but then it opens up here quite a bit until it gets back here and gets snug again. So this is how you figure out where you need to hand plane in order for this thing to fit. So I'm going to start by taking off a little bit right along here. So in order to do the hand planing, I'm taking the board and setting it up like this in clamps on the workbench, and then I'm going to use this hand plane, and wherever I have areas that need to come down, I use this to do that. And there you have it, all complete. A new African mahogany ribbon sapele plank is now on the Phoenix, and Now all I gotta do is put bungs in the holes. How'd I do, Jim?
You did excellent.
Jim's being nice. He's working on Sabbath day. You'll be very proud of him, Laura. So there you have it. The bungs are in place now, all the way down both planks from bow to stern. And so that's it. We will let that glue dry, and then I will use the Japanese saw to trim the bungs off so that they're flush with the new plank. And that's the end of it. Done for today.